The Galactic Council chamber was filled with a strange tension that no one could explain. It usually felt warm, bright, and full of confidence, because it was the place where thousands of species came together to solve problems. But on this day, the air felt heavy, and something quiet and uncomfortable settled over every delegate present. They were all waiting for one group that always arrived early, one group that always came prepared, and one group that never ignored a council call. Humans, yet the human seat stood empty. The silver chair with Earth's crest was polished and ready, like always. Every species knew humans respected order. They respected rules. They respected the council. Humans had become one of the most stable members in the entire galaxy. They had risen from a small, distant world to become a powerful voice of reason among many older civilizations. But now, the seat remained untouched, and every passing minute made the unease grow. Whispers filled the room in small, cautious waves. Some species spoke through their glowing tendrils, while others clicked their mandibles or vibrated air sacs to communicate. No matter the language or form, all were whispering the same question: where were the humans? It was not normal for them to miss even a minor meeting, let alone a full emergency session called by the council itself. Every delegate tried to hide their worry, but the fear was visible. A tall, crystal-bodied representative from the Velner Alliance leaned toward his neighbor. His voice echoed softly through the chamber, but his words carried sharp concern. He said humans were never late. They were never silent. If they refused to come, then something serious must have happened. His neighbor agreed with a slow pulse of light. The council chamber had survived chaos many times, but the empty human seat felt like a hole in the room. A missing piece in the balance they all depended on. A few brave delegates tried to calm themselves by checking data logs. They searched for human transmissions, ship movements, and diplomatic messages. But every system returned the same unsettling answer. The humans were active everywhere, doing their normal work. Their ships were landing on trade stations. Their engineers were repairing old reactors across the galaxy. Their scientists were sending routine reports to research outposts. Nothing looked strange on the surface. The only thing out of place was this: every human diplomat had gone silent at the same time. No message came. No call, not even a small automated reply. It was complete silence, the kind that felt like a cold wind moving through the council chamber. Delegates tried contacting Earth Central directly, but they received no answer. That was even more alarming. Earth never ignored a council signal. Humans were not the type to break trust. For them to refuse without explanation meant something important was happening behind closed doors. Some species believed humans had discovered a dangerous threat. Others whispered that humans might be preparing for a shift in their role within the galaxy. A few even thought humans had become tired of endless council debates and had stepped back to focus on their own world. The possibilities spread quickly, making the tension in the room grow heavier, while the delegates argued softly among themselves. The council chair, a wise being with soft green feathers, tried to maintain order. She tapped her staff gently, creating a soothing chime. She said that panic would not solve anything. They needed calm. They needed clarity. But her voice lacked its usual confidence, and the sound of nervous shifting filled the chamber, as everyone wondered if humans had abandoned the council. An elderly representative from a peaceful, water-based species spoke next. His tone flowed like a gentle stream, but even he sounded uneasy. He said humanity had stood with the galaxy through many crises. They were logical yet emotional, cautious yet brave, and often unpredictable. But even so, they always communicated. That was the key difference. Humans argued, complained, protested, suggested endless ideas, but they always talked. Silence was not normal for them. A young member of the council, barely 2 cycles into her duty, asked if they should send a direct envoy to Earth, but the idea was dismissed quickly. An envoy without permission could be seen as disrespectful or even intrusive, especially if humans were dealing with something sensitive. The council did not want to make the situation worse. Still, doing nothing felt equally unsettling. Slowly, the whispers turned into quiet fear. The galaxy had faced many strange events, but this one felt different. It was not an external threat. It was not an enemy fleet or a mysterious signal. It was silence from the species that was never silent. And that silence spread across the chamber like a quiet storm. A small, insect-like delegate with shimmering wings buzzed nervously. He said humans were unpredictable, but they were also stable. If they had withdrawn from Parley, it could mean they needed privacy, time, or internal focus. But the lack of explanation made everything feel worse. It made many wonder if the humans themselves knew what they wanted. The chamber lights dimmed slightly as the council attempted to begin the session without human input. But it felt wrong. Every topic on the agenda felt incomplete. The discussions felt hollow. Humans had become a key part of the council over the years, often balancing extreme viewpoints and offering practical solutions. Their absence made every species feel exposed, like a protective shield had vanished, even though no violence or danger had been confirmed. The atmosphere carried a strange shadow. Delegates kept glancing toward the empty chair. Some stared as if expecting a human diplomat to walk in at any moment. Others avoided looking at it entirely, as if the emptiness itself made them uncomfortable. A representative from a starfaring species, known for their calm logic, finally spoke. He suggested that perhaps humans were dealing with something internal. Maybe they were experiencing a shift in their own culture or leadership. He said no species could be strong forever without moments of self-reflection. And perhaps humans had reached one of those moments. His words brought slight comfort, but not enough to erase the uncertainty. Hours passed, but the humans never arrived. The council ended the session early for the first time in decades. Delegates filed out slowly, each one carrying a different fear. Some feared humans had become distant. Others feared humans had discovered something dangerous. But the deepest fear came from those who believed humans had simply chosen silence because they no longer felt understood. Outside the chamber, news spread quickly. Across trade stations, research outposts, and colony worlds, the message repeated again and again: humans refused to parley. And with every repetition, the worry grew stronger. Some species tried reaching out to their human neighbors, hoping for answers. But every human spoke the same way. They were polite, calm, and friendly, but when asked about the council, they only said they did not know anything. It was strange. Humans were connected to each other more than most species. For all of them to remain unaware of the diplomatic silence seemed unlikely. Many believed humans were hiding something. Others believed humans themselves were confused. That idea was even scarier because if humans did not understand themselves, how could the galaxy understand them? On Earth, a quiet change was happening, but the rest of the galaxy could not see it. Humans had grown more introspective. They asked themselves deep questions. They wondered about their place among the stars. They needed space to think, to understand, and to rediscover a direction they felt was slipping away. But they had not yet found the words to explain it to others. This made them withdraw, not out of anger or pride, but out of uncertainty. Still, the galaxy did not know this. All they felt was the silence. As night cycle began on many worlds, citizens looked up at their skies, wondering if the stars looked different. Wondering if the humans, who had once felt so familiar, had suddenly become distant. And in the council chamber, the empty human seat remained exactly where it was, shining softly under dim lights. A quiet reminder that even the strongest voices sometimes fell silent. The galaxy waited, unsure whether to feel hopeful or afraid. And the humans, somewhere beyond the council's understanding, were preparing for something they could not yet describe. The news of human silence spread through the galaxy like a quiet echo that refused to fade. Entire worlds felt the shift, even though no physical change had occurred. It was the absence of human voices, the missing presence of their diplomats, that made everything feel unstable. For many species, humans had become a familiar part of life, and familiarity brought comfort. Their sudden distance created an emptiness that no one knew how to fill. On the central trade station near the council, merchants gathered in small groups, speaking in low tones. They talked about their human customers, wondering if they had noticed anything different before the silence began. Some remembered humans acting thoughtful, pausing longer than normal before answering simple questions. Others noticed that humans were spending more time in quiet areas, watching the stars as if searching for answers in the darkness. At the time, these small things had seemed normal. Now they felt like clues. A young merchant, whose family had traded with humans for 3 generations, said humans always asked questions. They were curious about everything: machines, cultures, old stories, even the habits of small creatures on distant planets. But recently he said humans had stopped asking. They still smiled and worked, yet that bright spark of curiosity had softened. It was as if they were looking inward rather than outward. Several worlds away, a teaching center for interspecies studies held a special gathering. Students from dozens of species joined to discuss the strange situation. Many of them had studied humans in detail, admiring their creativity, their stubbornness, and the way they pushed through challenges even when hope was small. The students were shocked to hear that human diplomats had gone silent. One student, who had lived on Earth for a year, said humans were emotional creatures. Their silence might not be a sign of danger, but a sign of deep reflection. Even so, the galaxy could not relax. Silence from any powerful species was troubling, but silence from humans felt different. It felt like both a warning and an unanswered question. Back at the council, the chamber was filled again. Delegates hoped the humans might return, even if only to offer a short explanation. But once again, the silver human seat remained empty. The council chair, holding her staff of soft green feathers, tried to remain calm. She knew panic helped no one. Yet even she felt uncertainty growing inside her. A representative from the mountain world of Darren stood up, his deep voice echoing through the chamber. He said humans had long been trusted allies. They had helped during natural disasters, guided weaker worlds through political struggles, and shared technology without expecting anything in return. For such a species to withdraw meant something significant was happening. He suggested the council send a carefully worded message expressing care rather than curiosity. Another representative, from the desert world of Irex, disagreed. She believed humans might be hiding something too large for the galaxy to ignore. She said the council needed to know if the humans had discovered a threat or uncovered information that could affect them all. Remaining passive, she argued, was dangerous. Arguments rose again, slowly growing louder. Some delegates believed humans were planning something. Others believed humanity was going through internal change. No one truly knew, and that lack of knowledge created a fear deeper than any confirmed threat. Outside the council chamber, in the living gardens where delegates often walked to calm their thoughts, 2 old diplomats spoke quietly. They remembered when humans had first joined the council. At that time, humanity was young in galactic terms. Many species doubted their maturity, their stability, and their emotional nature. Yet humans had surprised everyone. They adapted quickly, formed bonds easily, and learned from others with impressive speed. One diplomat said humans grew faster than most expected, perhaps too fast. Maybe they had reached a point where growth had outpaced understanding, and they needed to slow down before losing themselves. The other diplomat nodded slowly. He said that when a strong species became silent, it did not always mean danger. Sometimes it meant transformation. Far from the council, on small colony worlds, people watched their human neighbors more closely. Humans continued their work repairing equipment, teaching children, managing farms, and helping communities. Yet their behavior held a gentle shift. They seemed more thoughtful, more aware of small moments, more focused on each other. If someone asked about the silent diplomats, humans only smiled politely and said they had no information. Some species found that strange. How could normal citizens know nothing if their leaders had made such a drastic decision? But others believed it made sense. Humans often kept complicated matters within a small circle until the right time came. It was part of their way of protecting those who did not need the burden of uncertainty. As days passed, the galaxy's tension grew. Some planets reported rising anxiety among their citizens. A few trade routes slowed as travelers hesitated to move through human territory, even though no threat existed. Markets fluctuated. Political groups formed theories, some peaceful, some worrying. The silence from humans created space for imagination, and imagination was often more frightening than truth. On Earth, a quiet transformation was taking place in the background. Humans were not preparing weapons or planning strategies. They were asking questions about themselves, their purpose, their future among the stars. It was not a crisis of fear, but a crisis of identity. Humanity had reached a point where their influence stretched across the galaxy. For the first time, they wondered if they had grown too quickly, taken on too much responsibility, or forgotten something important about who they were. This deep reflection made them withdraw from the council temporarily. They needed time to breathe, to think, to understand what direction they wanted their species to follow next. But they had not yet found the words to explain it to others. They knew the galaxy depended on them as a voice of balance. Saying the wrong thing could create confusion. Saying nothing created confusion too, but a quieter one. In the quiet corners of Earth, humans met in small groups. They talked about unity, about understanding themselves, about reconnecting with their roots. They didn't realize that the galaxy watched them with fear and curiosity. They didn't know that their simple search for clarity looked like a storm forming on the horizon. Back at the council, a new idea formed. A small group of delegates suggested sending a gentle signal directly to human diplomats asking if they were safe. Not asking for information. Not asking for answers. Just asking if humanity was well. The council approved the plan. The message was sent. Then the galaxy waited. Hours passed, then a full day, then more cycles. No response came. The silence deepened even further. Species that rarely felt fear now felt it settling inside them. Some imagined the worst. They wondered if humans were facing a hidden threat or if they were preparing for something so enormous that even the council could not be part of it. Trade stations dimmed their lights earlier than usual. Schools taught shorter lessons. Conversations felt heavier. People began to check news updates every hour, hoping for any sign from humans. Then, unexpectedly, something small happened. A human research vessel on the edge of Council territory sent a simple message to a nearby station. It contained no answers. It did not break the diplomatic silence. But it carried a gentle reassurance: all is well. The station shared the message widely. Many species sighed with relief, yet confusion remained. If all was well, why had humans withdrawn? Why did their diplomats stay silent while their citizens carried on calmly? A philosopher from a peaceful moon wrote a message that spread across the galaxy. He said humans were like a star entering a new stage. Quiet changes often came before great brightness. Perhaps, he said, the silence meant humanity was preparing for something important, not for war. Not for fear, but for growth. Those words eased some tension, but curiosity only grew. The council prepared for another session. Delegates hoped the humans might finally respond. They hoped they might walk into the chamber again, offering clarity, but as the session began, the silver human seat remained empty once more, shining like a quiet question no one could answer, and somewhere, far away on Earth, humans continued searching within themselves. Unaware of how the galaxy watched, wondered, and waited. The galaxy entered a strange period of waiting. Every world, every station, every community that had ever known humans could feel the silence like a slow-moving shadow. It did not bring fear in the traditional sense. Instead, it brought confusion, curiosity, and a quiet sense of loss. Humans had been more than allies. They had been connectors, bridge builders, the ones who asked questions and offered new ideas. Their sudden withdrawal felt like the universe had lost one of its brightest lights. In the busy halls of the fourth spiral trade hub, travelers gathered to share stories about humans. The hub was famous for its endless corridors, filled with lights that shifted colors based on the time of day cycle. Normally, the station buzzed with laughter, arguments, and excited voices. But these days, conversations were quieter. People spoke with lowered tones, as if afraid their words might somehow disturb the fragile balance the galaxy was holding on to. A merchant from the deep ocean, world of Tiver, told listeners about a group of humans who had visited. his shop just before the diplomatic silence began. They'd bought usual items, tools, food samples, small devices, but their behavior had changed. They were calm, gentle, but their laughter sounded different. Softer, like they were thinking about something far away. Another traveler added that he had seen humans spending more time in observation decks, staring at the stars without speaking. They used to talk about exploration, about new worlds they wanted to visit, about new technologies they planned to build. But their conversations became quiet, thoughtful, and personal. At the time, no one paid much attention. Now, those memories felt important, like pieces of a puzzle no one knew how to solve on a peaceful colony moon. A group of students organized a discussion about human behavior. They wanted to understand why a species known for communication had gone silent. One student said humans were emotional beings. Their silence might reflect an inner struggle or a moment of deep self-reflection. Another student argued that humans were unpredictable. They often acted based on instinct, which made this moment even more mysterious. Across the galaxy, theories grew like vines. Some believed humans had discovered something powerful. Others believed they were facing internal challenges. A few whispered that humans had evolved in some way and needed space to understand their own transformation. No theory felt completely right, yet none felt completely wrong either. Meanwhile, small signals of normal life continued from human territories. Ships transported supplies. Civilian messages passed between families. Research reports from human scientists reached their colleagues from other species. Everything seemed normal except for the diplomats. They remained completely silent, back. In the Galactic Council chamber, the tension continued to rise. Delegates gathered again for an emergency session, hoping for any sign from humanity. When the session began, all eyes immediately turned toward the human seat. It still stood empty, shining under the chamber's soft lights like a reminder that something important had changed. The council chair opened the session with a calm voice, but her expression showed quiet worry. She reminded everyone that panic would not help. They needed understanding. But each species had a different idea of what understanding meant. A representative from the cold world of Varnar stepped forward. He believed the council should send a team to Earth not to demand answers but to show support. He said humans might be experiencing something emotional or spiritual. A respectful visit might reassure them. Several delegates disagreed. They argued that sending a team without permission could be seen as disrespectful. Humans valued personal space and choice. Forcing contact might push them even further away. The debate continued, rising and falling like waves. Some voices demanded caution, others demanded action, but all shared the same worry. The galaxy felt incomplete without the human voice. During a pause in the debate, a quiet representative from a small forest world spoke. His voice was soft but steady. He said humanity had always acted with intention. Even their mistakes came from a place of meaning. Their silence must also carry meaning. Instead of fearing it, the council should try to understand it. His words brought a moment of calm to the chamber. Delegates lowered their voices and took time to reflect. Later, in the quiet garden outside the council hall, two researchers discussed their observations. One claimed that humans had reached a point where they needed to rediscover themselves. The other suggested that humanity had seen too much too quickly, too many conflicts, too many responsibilities, too many expectations. Perhaps they were overwhelmed. No species, no matter how strong, could move forward without moments of pause. While leaders debated, ordinary citizens across the galaxy continued their daily lives with an extra layer of caution. Many species found comfort in speaking with humans directly, even if the humans offered no political explanations. Human neighbors continued helping their communities, fixing machines, teaching skills, caring for children. Their actions remained kind, steady, and grounded. But when asked about the council, the humans only smiled gently, shook their heads, and said they knew nothing. This simple response made the mystery grow even larger. On a faraway research station, orbiting a red star, a xenopsychologist studied human behavior logs from the past decade. He noticed a pattern. Humans had been steadily increasing their activities involving reflection journaling, meditating, sharing personal experiences, revisiting history, creating art, and forming small groups for deep discussions. It was as if the entire species had slowly begun looking inward. The xenopsychologist shared his findings with nearby stations. His theory was that humans were entering a cultural shift. They were not preparing for conflict or hiding a threat. They were preparing for transformation. His theory spread quickly. Many found comfort in the idea, others doubted it, but it gave the galaxy something to think about, a possibility that did not feel frightening. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity's quiet transformation continued. Humans met in parks, in homes, in community halls, in quiet corners of their cities. They talked not about politics or power, but about purpose. They asked who they were becoming. They discussed unity, meaning, and connection. They wanted to understand themselves before they continued their role in the galaxy. Their diplomats remained silent, because they did not yet have answers. They wanted to return to the council only when they could speak with clarity and honesty, but the galaxy did not know this. One evening, on a distant colony, a small but important event happened. A human scientist working with a multi-species team paused during a routine task. She looked thoughtful before speaking to her colleagues. She said she believed her species was changing. She did not know what the change meant, but she felt it deeply. Yet she also said there was no danger, no threat. Humans simply needed space. Her colleagues listened carefully, relieved but still uncertain. The scientist's message was shared across nearby stations. It was not an official explanation, but it was the closest thing the galaxy had received to understanding. The next council session arrived quickly. Delegates entered with low hopes but quiet anticipation. They stared once again at the empty human seat. Halfway through the meeting, the chamber lights flickered softly, an incoming transmission. Every delegate froze. The room fell silent. A signal was coming from human territory, but when the message opened, it contained only 3 simple words: humanity needs time, no explanation, no details. No context. The chamber remained silent for a long time after the message ended. Some felt relief, others felt fear. But everyone understood one thing: humans had spoken at last. Even if only a little across the galaxy, those 3 words spread like a soft wind. Citizens whispered them in markets, in classrooms, in transport ships. Some species interpreted the message as reassurance. Others saw it as a warning. Many simply saw it as a mystery, but everyone agreed on one thing. Those words did not sound like the beginning of danger. They sounded like the beginning of something new. The galaxy waited again, quieter than before, wondering what humanity would become when they finally returned to speak once more. The news of the human fleet moving through the outer regions spread quickly across the Galactic Council, and the fear inside the Great Hall grew deeper. Many council members could not sleep, and many stayed inside their chambers whispering about what might happen next. The humans had refused every call, every message, every offer for a meeting. Now they were moving and nobody knew why. But far away from the council, on a silent moon base hidden behind a gas giant, the truth about the human silence started to become clear. Commander Rylan walked across the cold metal floor of the secret base. His boots echoed softly as he stepped toward the observation deck. He had not spoken to the council in weeks, and many people wondered if he had lost his purpose. But Rylan was focused. He stood in front of the wide, transparent glass and watched a powerful storm cover the surface of a distant planet. The storm spun like a giant burning eye, lighting the darkness around it. Behind him, General Mara entered the room. She was tall, calm, and known for her sharp mind. She watched Rylan for a moment before speaking. "The council tried again," she said. "A long message this time." "They sound desperate." Rylan did not turn around. "Did they say the one thing we asked for?" Mara shook her head. "No." Rylan sighed softly. "Then we keep going." Mara stepped beside him and looked at the storm through the glass. "They are afraid of us. They think we want war." "Fear is their problem," Rylan replied. "We asked for something simple. They refused. And now they fear the result of their own choice." Mara nodded slowly. "Our people trust you. But we need to be clear soon. The Council has no idea what we are doing, and they are preparing defenses. Ryland turned to her. They will not be harmed, not unless they force us. Humans did not come here to fight. Not this time, Mara studied his face. She respected Ryland greatly, but even she did not know the full plan. When will we reveal the truth? She asked. Ryland looked back at the storm. When we find what we came for. Meanwhile, inside the Galactic Council Hall, panic continued to grow. Ambassador Threx kept pacing in frustration. His skin flickered with stress colors as he moved. The ambassador from the Vicari tried to calm him. Maybe we should send a different message, the Vicari said softly. Something more humble. Threx stopped and stared at him. Humble? Humans ignore us completely. They move their ships wherever they want. They hide their intentions. And you want to appear weak? But other ambassadors were listening. Some looked at each other. Weakness did not matter now. Survival did. Across the room, Chancellor Varen raised his voice. Enough! We cannot argue all day. We need answers. The council quieted down. The Chancellor looked at his assistant. Show the latest report. A large holographic display lit the center of the room. A rotating model of space appeared, showing the human fleet's movement. The glowing markers showed they were heading towards Sector 9. An ambassador gasped, Sector 9? That region is empty. There is nothing there, but another ambassador shook his head. No, not empty. There is an old research facility there. Abandoned for years. Threx's eyes widened. What kind of research? Archaeological, the ambassador replied. The scientists said they found something ancient, something older than every known species, but the project was stopped. No one ever revealed why. The room went silent. The truth hung heavily in the air, something ancient, something that might be a threat. Threx spoke first. Are you telling me the humans know something we do not? No one answered, but everyone had the same thought. Back on the hidden moon base, Ryland walked through a long hallway filled with humming machines. Mara followed him. If the council discovers what was found in that old research site, Mara whispered, they may try to reach it before we do. Ryland's jaw tightened. They won't. Humans learned the truth first. We protected the information for years. And the council does not realize how dangerous that ancient signal is. Mara paused. Do you think it is still active? Ryland stopped walking. He looked down, remembering the faint repeating signal that humanity detected decades ago. A signal so old and so strange that no species could classify it? A signal coming from a structure buried deep under rock and dust. Yes, he finally answered. And if the wrong people activate it, everything changes. Mara shivered. No wonder you refuse to talk to the council. They are not ready to hear the truth, Ryland said. And we do not know how far the signal's influence spreads. I will not risk panic on a galactic level. Far away in the Galactic Hall, panic was already rising. Ambassadors spoke over each other, shouting questions. Why Sector 9? What are humans hiding? Are we in danger? Chancellor Varen struck his staff on the floor. Quiet! Everyone stopped. If humans are going to that research site, then we must go too. The council gasped. The Vicari ambassador lifted his hands. Please, Chancellor, humans may see that as a threat. Varen's voice grew firm. Not going is a greater threat. We cannot sit and wait for whatever secret they are hiding. We must investigate. Threx smiled in approval. Finally a wise decision. But others looked uneasy. They knew how powerful human ships were. Meanwhile, Ryland and Mara reached the command center where several officers worked around glowing screens. Status? Ryland asked. One officer responded quickly. Fleet is ready. Our scouts report an unidentified movement near council space. They seem to be preparing a small expedition. Mara frowned. So they are coming? Ryland's voice stayed calm. They will try, but we will reach the site first. He walked to the center console and placed his hand on it. A large hologram of the ancient structure appeared. It looked like a huge buried ark, carved with lines and symbols no one could translate. It was older than every known language. Older than all the stars nearby. Mara spoke softly. If this thing wakes up, Rylan nodded, then every species in this galaxy will face something beyond understanding. He stepped back and looked at his officers. Prepare for departure. Humans do not run from danger. We face it. The officers nodded and began working at the same time, inside the Galactic Council's central port. Multiple ships began preparing for launch. Ambassadors climbed aboard in fear, not courage. They had no idea what they were walking into, but they all wanted one thing: answers back on the human base. Rylan watched his fleet rise from the moon's surface, engines glowing bright against the dark sky. He knew the next hours would change everything. The truth was waiting in. Sector 9. And humanity would reach it first. The human fleet moved through the dark space of Sector 9 with sharp precision. The stars around them were quiet, like they were holding their breath. Commander Rylan stood on the bridge of the lead ship, looking at the empty region ahead. He knew the ancient structure was waiting somewhere inside the dust clouds. The signal that had started everything came from here. A signal that only humans fully understood. General Mara stepped beside him. Scouts report no movement yet. The council ships are still far, but they are coming. Rylan nodded slowly. They will not stop. They fear us too much to turn back now. Mara looked at the dark screen showing the signal pattern. Do you think they will believe the truth when we tell them? Rylan exhaled. Truth is rarely believed when fear is stronger. The ship's eye announced calmly, approaching target location. The stars ahead bent slightly as the ship entered a thick cloud of cosmic dust. The whole fleet followed behind like a metal storm. Rylan's gaze tightened. Bring up visual. The screen lit up. There it was, a giant dark shape buried under the floating dust and broken rocks. A massive arc-like structure half hidden inside a drifting asteroid. It looked like a sleeping creature with no face, no sound, no life. But deep inside, something was pulsing gently like a weak heartbeat. Mara felt a chill. So it is real. All the old warnings. All the strange readings. This thing has been here for millions of years. Rylan nodded. Older than any species we know. Built by hands. Or something like hands. He stepped closer to the screen. Prepare landing teams? Meanwhile, far behind them, the Galactic Council expedition rushed through space. Ambassador Threx sat in his seat trembling, but his face tried to look confident. He kept repeating the same thought. If humans refused peace, then it meant something dangerous. Something that must be stopped. Chancellor Varen entered the room and looked at Threx. You pushed hard for this. But now that we are heading into unknown danger, you look nervous. Threx tried to hide his fear. I am not afraid. I am cautious. Humans cannot be trusted. Varen sighed. Humans may be unpredictable, but they rarely act without purpose. I fear we may misunderstand them. Threx scowled. You fear too much. But Varen's eyes remained calm. And you fear too little. Their ships continued moving, unaware of what humans were about to uncover. Back at the ancient structure, Rylan's landing team stepped onto the rocky surface. Dust rose around their boots. Lights from their helmets cut through the darkness. The massive structure towered above them like a broken monument. Mara looked at the strange markings carved into the walls. There were symbols they had seen before, symbols from the old research logs. But now they glowed faintly. It reacts to us, she whispered. Rylan touched his wrist device. Scan it. The scanner hummed and returned a confusing reading. This thing is not fully off, the technician said. It's waiting for something. Rylan looked at the central archway. A narrow path led inside. We go in. The team slowly entered the structure. Inside, the walls curved smoothly, almost too precise for natural design. A long hallway stretched ahead, lit only by a faint blue glow coming from deep within. Mara's voice lowered. Commander, what if this thing wakes up because of us? Rylan answered softly. Then better us than the council. They would panic and press every wrong button. They moved deeper until they reached a circular chamber. In the center stood a tall pillar covered with symbols. The blue light pulsed from it, steady and calm. It looked like a heart made of stone and energy. Ryland stepped forward. This is the source of the signal. The moment he touched the pillar, the room shook gently. The light brightened. Mara shouted, "Commander, step back!" But it was too late. A soft hum filled the chamber. The symbols moved, sliding across the pillar as if alive. The glow spread through the walls. The entire structure woke up. On the surface, human ships detected the change. "Energy spike!" The officer shouted, "Prepare shields!" But the energy did not attack. It spread like a wave of light across the asteroid field. Far behind them, the Council expedition saw the burst too. What was that? Threx cried. The Council ship slowed. Panic filled the hall. "Is it a weapon?" Someone shouted, "Are humans firing?" Threx pointed forward. "See, I told you? Humans are activating something dangerous." But Varen stared with calm shock. "No, that light is not human. It is coming from the ancient structure." Back inside the chamber, Ryland's eyes widened as the symbols formed a pattern. "A memory. A history." The pillar projected an image into the era hologram so old it flickered like dust. Mara whispered, "What are we seeing?" The hologram showed a vast galaxy, full of life. Then it showed a strange, massive species, tall, shining figures who built the structure. They were not friendly or hostile. They were guardians, and the image changed, a shadow. A dark force consuming stars. A threat so large the Guardians built these structures as warning beacons. A message appeared in the hologram's center. The translation device tried to understand it. After a few long seconds, the device spoke. "The cycle returns." Mara's breath caught. "Cycle? What cycle?" The pillar's light dimmed. Ryland stared at the translation. "Something is coming back? Something ancient." The message continued. "When the stars dim and the signal pulses, the Guardians are gone. Another must rise." Mara felt goosebumps. "Another? They mean another Guardian?" The pillar's final message pulsed through the air. The galaxy must unite. Ofal. Silence filled the chamber. Ryland stepped back. "This is why we came. This is why we refused the Council's calls. We needed to confirm the truth before telling them." Mara trembled slightly. "Then humans are not preparing for war. We are preparing to protect the galaxy." Ryland nodded. "Yes, but the Council will not believe it until they see it." At that moment, alarms echoed through the human ships. "Council fleet approaching fast. Multiple ships. They are armed." Ryland's expression hardened. "They think we woke a weapon. They are coming in fear." Mara looked at him. "What do we do?" Ryland lifted his communication device. "We send the truth." A transmission was sent to the Council fleet. The hologram of the ancient message played. The symbols. The warning. The words for the first time in weeks. Humans broke their silence. Inside the Council ship, everyone froze as the message played. Threx's face lost all color. Varen watched calmly, but with heavy understanding. When the message ended, Ryland's voice echoed. "We did not refuse to parley out of pride. We refused because we lacked proof. The Guardians are gone. Something else will rise. Humanity stands ready, but the galaxy must stand with us." Silence filled the Council ship. Varen's voice was soft. "So this is the truth." Threx struggled to speak. We thought they wanted power." Varen shook his head. "No, humans wanted time." He activated the Council communication system. "Commander Ryland," he said, "the Galactic Council is ready to listen." On the human ship, Ryland closed his eyes for a moment. Relief washed over him. "Then let us talk," he replied, and for the first time since the panic began, the galaxy took a step toward unity. A new threat was coming, but humanity's courage might be the spark that saved them all.